What happens when a man who has said almost nothing for years finally looks into the camera and chooses his words carefully, knowing every syllable could reopen old wounds? The Good Morning America studio was brighter than usual that morning, flooded with a soft, welcoming light meant to feel safe, comfortable, reassuring. The kind of place where difficult stories were gently guided, not detonated. The audience murmured quietly as technicians adjusted cameras and producers whispered last-second instructions into headsets. Everything was calm, controlled, polished. Robin Roberts sat poised in her chair, posture perfect, hands folded neatly in her lap. She had interviewed presidents, survivors, legends. She was known for her steadiness, her ability to hold space when emotions ran high. Today was supposed to be one of those moments. Thoughtful, measured, a chance for reflection. Then Johnny Depp walked in. The applause rose instinctively, but it didn't feel rehearsed. It was hesitant, conflicted, charged with curiosity. Depp moved slowly toward his seat, not smiling, not acknowledging the claps beyond a brief nod. His face looked older than the last time many had seen him on television. Not tired, weathered. As if he'd been carrying something heavy for a very long time and had finally decided to set it down, at least for a moment. Robin stood to greet him, her smile warm but cautious. "Johnny, thank you for being here." "Thank you for having me," Depp replied quietly. His voice was calm, low, steady in a way that didn't invite interruption. The audience settled, sensing this would not be a light conversation. Cameras rolled. The familiar GMA theme faded away, replaced by something heavier, anticipation. Robin turned slightly toward him. "You've been largely silent. People have heard about you, but not from you." Depp nodded once. That was intentional. A pause followed. Not uncomfortable yet, but deliberate. "Before we go any further, subscribe to Prime Tale, like this video, and comment below, because what Johnny Depp says next doesn't just answer questions. It changes how this entire moment is remembered." Robin leaned in gently. "Why now?" Depp took a breath. Not a dramatic one, a controlled one. "Because silence can protect you," he said. "But it can also erase you." The words landed softly, but the effect was immediate. The audience grew still. Robin's expression shifted, not shocked but alert. "For a long time," Depp continued, "I watched versions of myself being discussed, debated, condemned, defended, all while the actual person sat somewhere else, very quiet." Robin nodded slowly. "Was that painful?" "Yes," Depp said, without hesitation. "But not in the way people think." She waited. "It wasn't the accusations," he said. "It was the certainty, the speed with which everyone decided they knew who I was." Robin's eyes flickered. "You felt unheard." Depp smiled faintly. "I felt replaced." A murmur rippled through the audience. "You see," Depp went on, "there comes a point where defending yourself stops feeling like truth and starts feeling like performance." Robin tilted her head slightly. "And you didn't want to perform?" "No," Depp said. "I'd done enough of that." The room felt tighter now. The warmth of the lights contrasted sharply with the weight of the words. Robin chose her next question carefully. "There were moments when the world expected you to speak, to explain, to respond." "I know," Depp said. "And every time I stayed quiet, it made people angrier." "Did that surprise you?" "No," he replied. "People don't like silence. Silence doesn't give them closure." The audience shifted in their seats. "But silence," Depp added, "gave me something else." "What did it give you?" Robin asked. He looked at her directly now. "Time. To see who was listening, and who was just waiting to react." Robin paused. "And what did you see?" Depp's jaw tightened slightly. Not with anger, with restraint. "I saw how easily stories become verdicts." A hush fell over the studio. Robin inhaled slowly. "This interview, some people will say it's overdue." "Perhaps," Depp said. "But timing isn't about urgency. It's about readiness." "Yours?" she asked. "And theirs," he replied, glancing briefly toward the camera. The implication lingered. Robin folded her hands together. "You're aware this conversation will reopen debate?" Depp nodded. "I'm not here to close it." That answer caught her off guard. "Just slightly, but enough." "Then why be here at all?" she asked. Depp leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "Because silence shouldn't be mistaken for surrender." The audience reacted audibly now, soft gasps, whispers. "And because," he continued, "I wanted people to hear my voice before deciding what it means." Robin held his gaze. "Do you feel misunderstood?" Depp considered this. I feel simplified. The word echoed. For years, he said, I was either a monster or a symbol. Very few seemed interested in the human being in between. Robin's voice softened. And today, Depp said quietly, I'm just telling my story. Calmly, without spectacle. A beat passed. And if people still disagree? Robin asked. Depp's answer was immediate. That's their right. But at least they'll be disagreeing with me. The audience broke into applause. Not loud, not explosive, but sincere. Robin smiled, though there was something different in it now. Less control. More curiosity. We're just getting started, she said. Johnny Depp nodded. I know. And in that moment, before the harder questions arrived, before the past fully surfaced, everyone watching could feel it. This wasn't an interview meant to comfort. It was a reckoning that had only just begun. The applause faded, but the weight of it stayed behind, settling into the studio like a low fog. Robin Roberts shifted slightly in her chair, her professional composure intact. Yet something in her eyes suggested recalibration. This wasn't unfolding the way most carefully planned interviews did. Johnny Depp hadn't come to defend himself, and he hadn't come to apologize. He'd come to define the space on his own terms, and that alone was unsettling. Robin nodded slowly, choosing her words with care. You've talked about silence as protection, she said. But silence also allowed others to speak for you, to shape the narrative. Yes, Depp replied. And that narrative became louder than truth. Robin leaned in. There are people who believe that if you didn't respond sooner, it meant something. Depp's expression didn't harden. It didn't soften either. It stayed level. That belief assumes silence is an admission, he said. Sometimes it's survival. A quiet murmur moved through the audience. For a long time, he continued, I wasn't trying to win a conversation. I was trying not to lose myself inside it. Robin absorbed that, then asked, Did you feel pressure, from studios, from the public, to say something different than what you felt? Depp nodded once. Constantly. In what way? To simplify, he said. To reduce everything to a sentence that could be quoted, shared, digested. Life doesn't work that way. Pain certainly doesn't. Robin's brow furrowed. But you understand why people wanted clarity. I do, Depp replied. But clarity without context is just convenience. The audience reacted, some nodding, others exchanging glances. Robin adjusted her posture. There were consequences, she said gently. Professional ones. Projects lost. Relationships strained. Yes, Depp said. And those consequences arrived long before any verdicts. Robin hesitated. Do you feel you were judged prematurely? Depp let out a slow breath. I feel I was judged permanently. The word hung there. For many, he went on, the first version of the story is the last version they'll ever need. Robin tilted her head. Even now. Especially now, Depp said. Because changing one's mind requires humility. The audience fell silent again. Robin glanced briefly toward the camera, then back to him. Some critics say this interview is an attempt to rewrite history. Depp didn't react immediately. When he did speak, his voice was steady. History doesn't need rewriting. It needs patience. Robin blinked. Just once. That's not an answer most people expect. That's why I'm giving it, Depp replied. A soft ripple of applause rose and fell. You've been called many things, Robin said. Some of them harsh. How do you sit with that now? Depp looked down at his hands for the first time, then back up. Names don't hurt as much as erasure, he said. Being told your voice no longer matters, that's heavier. Robin's expression shifted. Did you ever feel silenced? Yes, Depp said quietly. But not by one person. By momentum. She leaned forward. Momentum? When a story starts moving, he said, people step out of its way rather than question where it's going. The audience stirred uneasy. Robin pressed gently. There are those who say you're asking for sympathy. Depp's lips curved into a faint, almost sad smile. I'm asking for accuracy. The distinction landed sharply. And if people can't give you that? Robin asked. Then at least I'll know I spoke clearly, Depp replied. Silence can be misread. Words less so. Robin paused, then said, You're very calm talking about this. Depp nodded. I had to be. Why? Because anger would be easier to dismiss, he said. Calm requires listening. A noticeable shift passed through the room. Robin sat back slightly, absorbing the implication. Did you rehearse this? She asked, half smiling. No, Depp said. I lived it. The audience reacted audibly to that. Some gasps, some applause. Robin's voice softened. Is there a moment you regret staying silent? Depp thought for a long time before answering. The silence stretched, not empty, but full. I regret the cost, he said finally. Not the choice. Robin nodded slowly. You're aware this conversation will challenge people. I hope it does, Depp replied. Comfort hasn't done us many favors. The studio felt different now. Less like a morning show, more like a confessional with cameras. Robin glanced down briefly, then looked back up, her usual rhythm altered. We're going to take a short break, she said. When we come back, we'll talk about what happens after silence, what comes next. Johnny Depp nodded once. And as the cameras pulled back and the music swelled, the audience remained still, sensing that the hardest part of the conversation wasn't. The studio lights returned after the brief commercial break, but the atmosphere had changed entirely. What had started as a standard GMA segment was now tense, heavy with unspoken questions. Johnny Depp returned to his seat with the same quiet confidence, as if he had been expecting this wait all along. Robin Roberts sat across from him, her poise still intact, but there was a flicker of curiosity in her eyes, an acknowledgement that she was about to navigate a conversation unlike any other she had hosted. You've spoken about silence, Robin said softly, and how it can protect, but it also isolates. What did isolation teach you about yourself? Depp considered the question, eyes drifting briefly to the audience, scanning faces as if measuring their willingness to truly listen. Isolation teaches you patience, he said finally. It teaches you that your own voice matters, even when no one else acknowledges it. That truth exists independently of opinion. The audience murmured, caught between fascination and awe. Robin leaned forward slightly. But isn't there a danger in waiting too long? In holding back your side of the story? There is, Depp replied, calm and steady. But every moment of speaking too soon, I discovered, had the potential to be twisted, simplified, or weaponized. I needed to find the right words for the right moment. And this felt right. Robin nodded, absorbing the weight of his words. And what about those who've already made judgments? Those who formed opinions without hearing from you directly? Depp's gaze sharpened. Not angry, but piercing. They will always exist. But they are not my responsibility. My responsibility is clarity, for myself. And for those willing to truly listen. A quiet tension settled over the audience. They weren't just witnessing an interview. They were witnessing a man reclaiming his narrative. You faced intense scrutiny, Robin continued, her tone careful, deliberate. Media coverage, public opinion, legal battles. Did that ever make you question yourself? Depp shook his head slowly. Questioning oneself is part of life. But the scrutiny? It was never about me. It was about a story people wanted to believe. And the moment I accepted that, I stopped reacting to every accusation. The audience shifted, sensing the power behind the restraint. Robin's next question carried more weight than usual. And yet, there are still people who view your silence as guilt. Depp's lips curved faintly. Guilt is easy to assume. Innocence, much harder to recognize. Silence can be misread as complicity, but it is often protection, observation, reflection. Robin's brow furrowed slightly, not in confusion but in realization. So you're saying silence is your form of resistance? Yes, Depp said. Resistance against assumption, against distortion, against the narrative that removes agency from the person living the story. The audience responded audibly now, some murmurs of agreement, some gasps of realization. The weight of his words was tangible, as if the studio itself had been holding its breath for years, waiting for him to speak. Robin pressed on, softer now. After all that's happened, after all the public perception, how do you rebuild trust? With fans, with colleagues, with yourself? Depp paused. The stillness was almost cinematic, a quiet tension holding the room captive. Trust begins with honesty, he said finally. Even if honesty is uncomfortable. Even if honesty disrupts expectations. For myself, it began the moment I stopped letting the story be told without me. For others, it's earned slowly through consistency, transparency, and accountability. A palpable silence filled the room, not awkward but reverent. People were listening differently now. Not just to an interview, but to someone reclaiming their own narrative from years of chaos and misinterpretation. Robin's voice was gentler, almost reflective. And the world, the public, are they ready to hear that? Depp leaned forward slightly, hands clasped loosely. Some are, some aren't. But the goal isn't to be universally accepted. It's to be truthfully represented. And if that challenges people, so be it. The audience's reaction was immediate. Applause rippled, first tentative, then stronger, a recognition of courage and composure. Robin herself sat back, a soft exhale escaping her lips, a subtle acknowledgement that the conversation had exceeded her expectations. And now, Depp said quietly, we face the aftermath of silence. The stories, the rumors, the assumptions. But at least now they are met with words that belong to me, not to speculation. Robin nodded, the weight of the exchange settling. This is your first public statement in a long time. The world will scrutinize every word. How does that feel? Depp's eyes, steady and clear, met the camera. It feels necessary, and long overdue. The audience erupted into applause again, louder this time. The tension didn't dissipate, it transformed into acknowledgement. They weren't just reacting to a celebrity interview. They were witnessing clarity, restraint, and personal reclamation. Every carefully chosen word had landed exactly where it needed to. Robin's voice softened, almost in awe. Johnny, thank you for your honesty. Depp nodded once. Thank you for listening. As the segment drew toward its final moments, the atmosphere remained charged. The audience, the crew, and Robin herself knew that this was more than a television interview. It was a moment that would ripple far beyond the studio walls. And deep down, everyone understood. The hardest truths are not screamed. They are spoken calmly, with precision, and allowed to resonate. The cameras lingered just a moment longer, capturing the quiet power of his composure, the clarity in his words, and the impact of a voice long withheld. And even as the broadcast moved toward commercial, the weight of the conversation remained, a quiet storm waiting to erupt in public discourse. The studio lights dimmed as the final segment of the interview wrapped, but the tension didn't leave. Johnny Depp stood calm and composed, the weight of his words still lingering in the air. Robin Roberts leaned back slightly, her usual poise tempered by the realization that they had just witnessed something far beyond a typical morning show conversation. This wasn't promotional. This wasn't entertainment. This was reclamation, a quiet, intense reckoning that would echo far beyond the studio walls. As the applause died down, cameras cut to the audience. Faces were thoughtful, some stunned, others nodding with a sense of understanding. The moment had transformed the room. It wasn't just an interview. It was a confrontation with perception itself. People had come expecting a celebrity soundbite. Instead, they were offered truth in its purest, unflinching form. Robin Roberts turned to Depp one last time. This will undoubtedly spark conversation, she said softly. Some will embrace your words, some will criticize them. Are you prepared for that? Depp's calm gaze met hers. I've lived long enough to know that opinions are inevitable. What matters is integrity, not approval. The audience reacted with a quiet murmur that swelled into applause, the sound measured but sincere. It was not the clap of spectacle or theatrics, but of recognition. They had witnessed someone claim his own narrative without theatrics, without anger, without pleading. They had seen control wielded as a weapon against misconception. Outside the studio, social media ignited within minutes. Clips of Depp's poised, deliberate responses were uploaded, tweeted, and shared. Headlines ranged from praise to critique. Johnny Depp breaks silence, calmly confronts years of misrepresentation. Depp's GMA interview leaves Robin Roberts, an audience, speechless. The quiet storm. Johnny Depp challenges the narrative. The calmness that had stunned the studio became the firestorm online. Fans and critics debated endlessly. Was Depp's composure bravery or manipulation? Did his calmness make his words more powerful, or more disarming? Comment sections filled with reflections on honesty, fame, and the cost of public judgment. Analysts dissected the language of restraint, comparing it to outbursts and dramatic revelations. Every pause, every carefully chosen phrase, became fodder for discussion. For Depp himself, the reaction didn't matter. He had achieved something far more personal than public approval. He had spoken on his own terms, and he had been heard. Not everyone would agree, and some would remain critical, but the clarity of the moment could not be rewritten or misunderstood. Silence had become articulation. Obscurity had become visibility. Misconception had met confrontation, soft, measured, unflinching. Robin Roberts returned to the camera for a closing statement. What we just witnessed is a reminder. Sometimes calm carries more weight than anger. Sometimes truth arrives quietly, and it demands attention. As the cameras panned away, the audience remained seated, lingering on the intensity of what they had just seen. In that quiet, heavy space, it was clear that this interview would be remembered, not for controversy alone, but for the courage it took to speak truthfully after years of silence. And now the story extends to you. What do you think of Johnny Depp's GMA interview? Was it a moment of strength, a statement of truth, or something else entirely? Comment your thoughts below. Share this video with someone who loves cinematic celebrity moments, and subscribe to Prime Tale for more explosive, dramatic stories where every word carries weight and every silence speaks volumes. The lights may dim, the cameras may turn off, but the conversation doesn't end here. It continues in every viewer's mind, every comment, and every discussion sparked by a man who chose calm over chaos and truth over performance.